welcome to our Good Friday worship service. As tradition on Good Friday, we will tell the story and remember the story and the events of Good Friday in word and in song. As the service goes, you will notice that the sanctuary will get darker and darker as we go. We will end our service singing, "Were You There?" And as we're singing, "Were You There?" it will be fairly dark. If you're unable to read the print in your bulletin, Katie will be singing, and you can sing along with her and follow her lead in the process. As worship ends, Paul will take the Paschal candle out into the sanctuary, and you are invited to remain seated for silent prayer and reflection. And remember that the worship service continues on Sunday at 9 and 10:30. Again, welcome to worship. Let us prepare with our hymn. Jesus prays in Gethsemane. Then Jesus went with them to the place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I go over there to pray." And he took with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, and began to be grieved and agitated. Then Jesus said to them, "I am grieved even to death. Remain here. Stay awake with me." And going a little further, he threw himself on the ground and prayed, "Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not what I want, but what you want." Then Jesus came to the disciples and found them sleeping. And he said to Peter, "So, could you not stay awake with me 1 hour? Stay awake and pray that you may not come into the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." Again, Jesus went away for the second time and prayed, "My Father, if this cannot pass unless I drink it, your will be done." Again, Jesus came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. So leaving them again, he went away and prayed for the third time, saying the same words. Then he came to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and taking a rest? See, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand."
betrayal and arrest of Jesus. While he was speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priest and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, "The one I will kiss is the man. Arrest him." At once he came up to Jesus and said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him. Jesus said to him, "Friend, do what you are here to do." Then they came and laid hands on Jesus and arrested him. Suddenly, one of those with Jesus put his hand on his sword, drew it, and struck the slave of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Then Jesus said to him, "Put your sword back in its place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword. Do you think that I cannot appeal to my Father, and he will at once send me more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled, which say it must happen in this way?" At that hour, Jesus said to the crowds, "Have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me as though I were a bandit? Day after day I sat in the temple teaching, and you did not arrest me. But all of this has taken place so that the scriptures of the prophets may be fulfilled." Then all the disciples deserted him and fled.
Jesus before the high priest. Those who arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, in whose house the scribes and the elders were gathered. But Peter was following him at a distance, as far as the courtyard of the high priest. And going inside, he sat with the guards in order to see how this would end. Now the chief priests and the whole council were looking for false testimony against Jesus, so they might put him to death. But they found none, though many false witnesses came forward. At last 2 came forward and said, "This fellow said, 'I am able to destroy the temple of God and to build it in 3 days.'" The high priest stood up and said, "Have you no answer? What is it that they testify against you?" But Jesus was silent. Then the high priest said to him, "I put you under oath before the living God. Tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God." Jesus said to him, "You have said so. But I tell you, from now on you will see the Son of God seated at the right hand of the power and coming on the clouds in heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He is blasphemed. Why do we still need witnesses? You have now heard his blasphemy. What is your verdict?" They answered, "He deserves death." Then they spat in his face and they struck him. And some slapped him, saying, "Prophesy to us, O Messiah, who is it that struck you?"
outside in the courtyard, a servant girl came to him and said, "You also were with Jesus the Galilean." But Peter denied it before all of them, saying, "I do not know what you are talking about." Then he went out to the porch. Another servant girl saw him, and she said to the bystanders, "This man was with Jesus of Nazareth." And again, Peter denied it with an oath, "I do not know that man." After a little while, the bystanders came up to him and said to Peter, "Certainly you are also one of them, for your accent betrays you." Then Peter began to curse and swore an oath, "I do not know the man." At that moment, the cock crowed. Then Peter remembered what Jesus had said, "Before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times." And Peter went out and wept bitterly.
Jesus brought before Pilate. When morning came, all the chief priests and the elders of the people conferred together against Jesus in order to bring about his death. They bound him, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate, the governor. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said, "You say so." But when he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he did not answer. Then Pilate said to him, "Do you not hear how many accusations they make against you?" But he gave no answer, not even a single charge, so that the governor was greatly amazed. Now at the festival, the governor was accustomed to release a prisoner for the crowd, anyone whom they wanted. At that time, they had a notorious prisoner called Jesus Barabbas. So after they gathered, Pilate said to them, "Who do you want me to release to you? Jesus Barabbas or Jesus, who is called the Messiah?" For he realized that it was out of jealousy that they were handed him over. While he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent word to him, "Have nothing to do with that innocent man, for today I suffered a great deal because of a dream about him." Now the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowds to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus killed. The governor said to them, "Which of you two do you want me to release?" And they said, "Barabbas." Pilate said to them, "Then what shall I do with Jesus, who is called the Messiah?" All of them said, "Let him be crucified." Then he asked, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they shouted all the more, "Let him be crucified!" So when Pilate saw that he could do nothing, but rather than a riot was beginning, he took some water, he washed his hands before the crowd, and said, "I'm innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves." Then the people as a whole answered, "His blood be on us and our children." So he released Barabbas for them, and after flogging Jesus, he handed him over to be crucified.
Crucifixion of Jesus. As they led him away, they seized a man, Simon of Cyrene, who was coming from the country, and they laid the cross on him and made him carry it behind Jesus. A great number of people followed him, and among them were women who were beating their breasts and wailing for him. But Jesus turned to them and said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For the days are surely coming when they will say, 'Blessed are the barren, and the wombs that never bore, and the breasts that never nursed.' Then they will begin to say to the mountains, 'Fall on us,' and to the hills, 'Cover us.' For if they do this when the wood is green, what will happen when it is dry?" Two others also, who were criminals, were led away to be put to death with him. When they came to the place that is called the Skull, they crucified Jesus, there with the criminals, one on his right and one on his left. Then Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And they cast lots to divide his clothing. And the people stood by, watching. But the leaders scoffed at him, saying, "He saved others. Let him save himself if he is the Messiah of God, his chosen one." The soldiers also mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine and saying, "If you are the King of the Jews, save yourself." There was also an inscription over him, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals who were hanged there kept deriding him and saying, "Are you not the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other rebuked him, saying, Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed have been condemned justly, for we are getting what we deserve for our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong. Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." He replied, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise."
From noon on, darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m. At about 3 o'clock, Jesus cried with a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani?" That is, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of the bystanders heard this, they said, "This man is calling for Elijah." At once one of them ran and got a sponge, filled it with sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink. After this, when Jesus knew that all was now finished, he said in order to fulfill Scripture, "I am thirsty." A jar full of sour wine was standing there, so they put a sponge of wine on the branch of hyssop and held it to his mouth. When Jesus finished the wine, he said, "It is finished." Then he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. It is dark, but not black. One light remains, and that light can never go out. One by one, lights can be rekindled at the source of this forgiving grace. The cross stands etched against the darkness of night, but the morning always breaks to reveal a new day. For behold, darkness shall cover the earth, and a deep darkness the people. But the Lord shall rise, and his glory shall be seen upon all. And nations shall come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising. The light shines, and the darkness has not overcome it. Give us your light, O Christ, to shine in the darkness of our lives. And the people say, Amen.